Hello, fellow members of the Alliance, and welcome to episode 5 of the Alliance Football Podcast. I'm your host, Rod Villagomez. You can find me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. You can find the show on Twitter at AllianceFBPod. We have a fantastic show filled with fun and history and the long-awaited premiere of the SA Command Post podcast hosts on the show. We have RC, we have Phillip, and we have Leo, and they are joining us on the show today to tell you about their podcast and all the fun that they're having. So great show. Like I said, let's just get on with it. We are about a month away from the start of the AAF season, and really, and that equates to about 4 weeks in my math. Maybe it's more than 4, but I'm going to say that it's about 4 weeks away. And I thought it would be fun if we took a look back at some of the football history in the cities that the AAF is going to be calling home. And I thought this would be just kind of fun, a little fun way to look and see what football has happened in the cities that the AAF is going to start playing in this season. And so I decided to take a look back. And so we're going to do that in this or in this quarter rather, in the first, the next 4 episodes. We're going to take 2 teams per down or per quarter per down. I have another podcast and I call it a down. So per quarter, and we're going to break it down. So this week we are going to start with the Orlando team and the Orlando Apollos. And then of course we'll segue into the Atlanta history of sports. The Atlanta Legends now housed there. But let's take a look back at football past for Orlando. Orlando first got a football team, as we know it, an American football team, back in 1966, and they were the Panthers, the Orlando Panthers of the Continental Football League. Do your homework, and you can, if you want to dig into this more, it's a fun read. Like looking back at some of these former leagues that popped up and are gone, definitely is a fun little way to spend your time. Now, the Orlando Panthers, rather, I want to say Florida Panthers because that's the hockey team, but the Orlando Panthers won 2 titles in 1968 and 1969. So they were a semi-successful team. They started as the Patterson Miners and became the Newark Bears. So that was the history of the Orlando Panthers team. They weren't even Orlando Panthers to start with, but in 66, they became so by way of the Patterson Miners and the Newark Bears. And they actually were home to the first woman player in professional football history. And that was Patricia Palinkas. I hope I got that right. She was a placeholder for the Panthers, and she actually held for her husband, who was the kicker on the team. So she had a couple of season run with the team as the placeholder, and in fact, her husband got cut, and so she ended up staying on the team, even though her husband, who she was holding for, got cut. But instead, and then a couple of seasons later, she wasn't getting paid much. They weren't getting paid much overall, and so she decided to actually go with her regular day job, which was a teacher, and where she made more money. But it's fun. I mean, it's fun that they actually housed the first woman player. And which is funny, if you fast forward now, Jen Welter is actually the first NFL female coach who's now on the Orlando Apollos. So it kind of comes full circle, as it would. But I mean, again, you look back at 1960s, that definitely wasn't something that happened at all. And in fact, there's a fun little, well, maybe not fun, but there's a little snippet in there where it says one of the players actually did try to give her a welcome into professional football and came in a little rough and tried to take her out. He apologized for it, and later it was, not an issue. But yeah, again, that's where we were at in history. And then as the Orlando Panthers, they actually had 4 out of their 5 seasons were winning seasons. So it was a pretty successful team. Again, they won 2 Continental Football League titles in 68 and 69. So nothing to sneeze at. But then, of course, as most of these leagues happen, the Continental Football League folded. And there was a hole in Orlando as far as football was concerned until 1974, when the Florida Blazers called Orlando home. This was the World Football League, which was home to great teams such as the Birmingham Americans or the Birmingham Vulcans, or the Chicago Fire, Chicago Winds, all kinds of great fun teams. But so it was the Florida Blazers who were the Orlando representatives of the World Football League. And then, unfortunately, they lost in World Bowl I. They didn't get a championship out of that. But they were originally meant to be a team that was in Boston. Then they were supposed to be a team that was D.C., Washington, D.C., and then finally they landed in Orlando. Not a bad team, though. I mean, they finished 14-6 in the regular season, and then they lost by a single point to the Birmingham Americans in World Bowl I. And then, of course, the league did no good, and it folded as well. And so there was no more Florida Blazers. But then in 1985, football again returns to Orlando in the form of the Orlando Renegades in the USFL. We all know the USFL, and if you're listening, you certainly know the USFL and what there's so many comparisons right now that are being made between these two teams. But yeah, the USFL, which housed so many great teams and great players that eventually went to the NFL. But the Orlando Renegades were the representatives for Orlando in that league. They came from Washington, is where they were originally founded as a team. So in 1985, they came to Orlando and became the Renegades. And in their only season of existence, and then pretty much one of the only seasons in the league's existence, they went 5-13 in that season. They played 18 games. Can you imagine an NFL schedule going 18 games? Now, I know the CFL is like hold my beer, but the NFL with their 16 games would probably never, ever entertain a longer season. But the USFL did, and they had 18 games, and the Orlando Renegades lost 13 of them. Then, in 1991, the Orlando Thunder of the World League of American Football, which we know as NFL Europe, actually housed itself in Orlando. They enjoyed a 13-7 overall record, and then they lost to the Sacramento Surge 21-7 in World Bowl 92, or World Bowl II, I guess, as it was. And that league was an interesting league because, again, this was a league that kind of fancied itself as a feeder league as well for the NFL. And in fact, NFL Europe was exactly meant to be that. But the problem is that they tried to brand worldwide, I think too quickly. Maybe not even too quickly, but before the world was ready for to watch the German Frankfurters, or was it the German Galaxy? The German Frankfurters? I think it was the Galaxy. Play football. And there was I remember the other teams in that league, and I remember having fun watching the football that was being played, but it wasn't marketed very well. And I think it just suffered from the fact that it wasn't the NFL and people didn't want to watch what wasn't the NFL. And then once they moved to all Europe, that was definitely hard pressed because of course the games were at crazy times for Americans, and it didn't work. But when they had it as the World Football League, then, or not the World Football League, the World League of American Football, that was actually, I think, a better experiment. And I remember the Sacramento Surge because, again, I'm from California, so I remember when the Surge were a big thing and they were winning a lot of games, and it was exciting to have a team in Sacramento, and, people were having a good time going and watching the games. So, yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about this in another segment. But yeah, Sacramento winning that World Bowl was pretty big news around here. So, all right. And then the XFL, right? The fabled XFL moves into Orlando, and they bring with them the Rage. And if you're from Orlando, you probably remember this in the mid 90s. Oh boy, the XFL. I had a watch party for the XFL, the very first game. I think I said this in another episode, but I had a watch party in my barracks room while I was at Fort Campbell, and we watched the very first XFL game. And I got super excited for that league, and it was sad because they ended up folding. But the Rage finished with the best record in the league, 8-2. At the time, that was pretty good, right? And then they lost to my San Francisco Demons in the playoffs. So unfortunately, the best record in the league did not translate into a championship. But again, they were good, and they actually were one of the bright spots in that league. Who knows if they would have beat LA in the championship game if it had made it that far. I sure as heck wish that my San Francisco Demons would have won the only championship in the league. But unfortunately that didn't happen. And now we're going to get to see a brand new XFL, play and see how that works out. But this is not an XFL podcast. So, and then in 2009, after the demise of the XFL, 2009 brought back football, in the form of the Florida Tuskers in the United Football League. Now this was one of those leagues that popped up, and it's a semi-recent league. So folks should still have some memories of it and fresh. But this was that league that was supposed to be just a small, tiny league, right? And they never really wanted to expand, and it wasn't really that, it wasn't trying to be bigger than it was supposed to be. But it only had a few teams, and I think only at one point 6 teams or 5 teams playing at any given time. So it wasn't a huge league. It just had a lot of bigger names attached to it. And I remember out here in Sacramento, in the area that I'm in, the Sacramento Mountain Lions. The California Redwoods was actually the team, and I remember Dante Culpepper was supposed to be the quarterback for the Redwoods, the California Redwoods, and then they turned into the Mountain Lions. But yeah, I mean, it was just a very short-lived league. And the Tuskers actually went to the league's first 2 championship games, and they lost both of them to the Las Vegas Locomotives. They sported a perfect 6-0 regular season record in the 2009 season, and fun fact, they were coached by Jay Gruden in the 2010 season. We know Jay Gruden up there doing good things in Washington right now. And so, yeah, that was kind of fun. But then, of course, the United Football League ceased to exist. And then that was it for the Florida Tuskers. And then in 2010, Orlando got a team in the Lingerie Football League, which is now known as the Legends Football League. I remember that, it was the Super Bowl. The Lingerie Bowl was a huge thing. And they used to have you flip over during halftime to watch the Lingerie Bowl. But this has turned into a league now where they're trying to shed the lingerie past and focus on females playing football, competitive football. And Orlando had one of those teams when it was known as the Lingerie Football League. But they obviously did not pan out. The league is still going strong, again, as the Legends Football League. If you want to check them out, it's good football for sure. And it's just hard to find, actual televised games or you have to watch clips. But if they ever get to the point where they can actually televise games, I think it'd be fun to watch a lot more of that. But Orlando Fantasy was the representative for Orlando. And then, of course, they went away. Now, it's not NFL or not like American gridiron. Well, it is gridiron football, but the Orlando Predators, since 1991, have been in the Arena Football League. Now, of course, they're not anymore, but they were in 1991 granted the Orlando Predators in the Arena Football League, and they pretty much followed and bounced around. Some teams didn't follow when the AFL kind of folded from their original version to version 2.0. But the Orlando Predators was actually a team that made that transition. And in that, they were actually coached by Jay Gruden. Familiar name, right? He was the Florida Tuskers coach, but he ended up coaching the Predators before the Tuskers. In fact, he was the head coach when they won their 2 titles in 1998 and 2000. But then he had to move away. He actually unretired from playing and started playing again, Jay Gruden did, until he had to go to the Tuskers and become the head coach in 2010. Crazy ride for Jay Gruden and, of course, Orlando. So that is it for Orlando until now, right, where we have the Orlando Apollos set to play this February for the AAF. So super exciting past for Orlando. And, boy, I tell you, it goes back a long way. And it's pretty exciting to see that Orlando gets another shot at this. Hopefully this isn't a league, again, like I said, that's going to fold, but that we see Orlando Apollos play football for a very, very long time in the future. Now let's move to Atlanta, who's now home of the Legends, but, of course, have been a long-time host to the Atlanta Falcons. In fact, they started play in 1966 in the NFL. Now, here's what's funny, is that they've played in the NFC West, which if you remember football back that long, as I do, you know that the geographical barriers had absolutely zero meaning for a long time. And the fact that the Falcons played in the same division, or the same division as the Niners and the Seahawks. Actually, the Seahawks didn't even play. They played in the AFC. But yeah, the Rams and the Niners, it was crazy. It was crazy to think of Atlanta being on the same division as San Francisco, but they were, and it was like that for a very long time. And of course, we all know that they've won 2 conference championships as the Falcons, went to a couple of Super Bowls. I remember watching the Super Bowl that they played against the Patriots, and I was definitely going for the Falcons because that was a good story, but unfortunately that did not happen. So they have not won a Super Bowl, but they've come close. They've come very close. And then they also have, or at least had, an Arena Football League team called the Georgia Force. They started out as the Nashville Cats, and I do remember the Nashville Cats. I was stationed at Fort Campbell for a few years, and I remember the time of the Nashville Cats in the Arena Football League. And that was super exciting to watch them. I think I even watched them play once. So yeah, that was pretty fun. The Force played in Arena Bowl. Let's see if my Roman numerals are good. 19, right? And lost to the Colorado Crush 51-48. Really close game and a high scoring game, as most Arena League football games were. And then the Georgia Force closed its doors in 2012, and now Atlanta has the Legends. So not a huge list of teams that have played in Atlanta, but of course there's been some longevity to at least one of them. And, even for the Force, 10 years isn't bad to have played in Arena League. So looking forward to both of these teams having their football re-sparked and the fans getting to watch good quality football again. So, all right, that's a little bit of the history. I hope you had some fun going back through it. I know I had some fun reading through it. We'll hit up Memphis and Birmingham in next week's episode. There's quite a bit of talk going around right now about exactly what this league is going to be. Obviously, everybody right now is just guessing as to what exactly is going to unfold over the course of the next few months as it pertains to the AAF. And I got to tell you that a lot of the talk is negative. And not, obviously I surround myself with a lot of positive folks about the AAF and listen to a lot of podcasts that are based around it. But when you take a step back outside, there's a lot of skepticism about spring leagues in general, and the AAF and the XFL and the FFL and all these other leagues that are popping up right now. And it's got me thinking about what exactly football fans are looking for out of a league. Now, I don't think that it's fair to compare every league that pops up to the NFL and the success that the NFL has, because lest we forget that the NFL wasn't even the most popular league in the world when it started up. There was time for it to mature. There was a growing process. There was some it didn't start out as the NFL as we know it today. So I feel like as AAF fans, or as people in general, football fans in general, there just needs to be tempered expectations as to what success looks like. And again, we jump into these assumptions that you want 100,000 people in the stadium, and you want it rocking all the time, and you want everybody to come out. It's a lot like starting a podcast. All right. And for those of you podcasters, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You put that first episode out there, and all of a sudden you want 10,000 clicks in 15 minutes. And if you don't get there, you feel a little discouraged because you're like, man, I just spent the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks just making this thing the way I want it. And I put it out in the world, and all of a sudden no one's listening to it. Right. But you can't expect that success to happen overnight. And as football fans, we can't expect a league to pack the stands every game, first of all. And second of all, you have to allow for some sort of growth process to happen. I know that there's a lot of people that just say plunk a team down and magical happen. And hopefully that does. And I'm hoping that there's a lot of fans that clam onto this and continue to clam onto it. But look, you got to know that, and I saw it in my hometown of Stockton, California. Okay. We got a hockey team, right? And I know this has nothing to do with football. This has something to do with building an actual base of fans, which is what the AAF cities are trying to do. So we got a hockey team back in 2005. It was not even an AHL team. It was actually an ECHL team, right? East Coast Hockey Team League. And they were called the Stockton Thunder. Now, this was new to Stocktonians because not a lot of Stocktonians were hockey fans. I mean, some followed the Sharks, right? We had a lot of Sharks fans, but this was new. This was a shiny new toy that Stockton had in a beautiful new arena, and it was some quality hockey, right? So fans flocked. It sold out the better part of its first 3 seasons, had the most attendance in the league. We won that crown for at least 3 seasons long. But then the novelty started to wear off and it started to taper, right? And then really it just didn't draw very much, 4,000 maybe on a good night, 3,000. And so now obviously AAF numbers, if they sink that low, there'll be no AAF. But I mean, if we take it up even into the, if they sell out first, right, and get 30,000 or whatever the capacity of whatever stadium they're in is, and then they start to taper off into the tens of thousands, but that's the maturity. That's the maturing process of a team. Of course, people may end up flocking to it when it's brand new. And look, what happens if people don't flock to it when it's brand new? What happens if you build it and they don't come? Again, it's all about building. So we're going to get too bent around the axle or bent out of shape or wrapped around the axle or whatever cliche you want to use there. We're going to get that, right? We're going to get those knee-jerk folks that if the door's open and nobody comes, you're going to get those NFL, those, football snobs that are going to say, well, yeah, it's just another spring league that's not going to work. And they're going to give up on it immediately. And obviously people say, well, those aren't the fans we're looking for. But yes, they are. We're not going to compete with college football. It's not going to compete with the NFL. It's not even the same time frame as these. And so to draw comparisons, which I've heard a lot of folks doing lately, oh, well, this is going to hurt so-and-so. It's going to hurt attendance in the NFL. It's going to hurt. And you have to stop and think about it. It's not hurting attendance anywhere. Like, I was listening to a podcast, which I love dearly, but the guy was drawing a comparison saying, well, they'd rather watch a high school game than a semi-pro game. Well, yes, but high school plays in a completely different time frame as the AAF. So there's no choice in that matter. Likewise, no one's choosing between watching an NFL game on Sunday or an AAF game on Sunday. No one's choosing or having to make the choice between a CFL game and an AAF game. There's no choice right now. This is the only football going on. Well, I mean, this is the only football that would probably be televised going on in those 10 weeks or 12 weeks when you count the playoffs and the championship. So there's just you can't draw a comparison. So this is why I say that we need to temper expectations. We need to look at this from a standpoint of that first week is not a make or break week, right? This isn't going to be one of those things where if that first week nobody watches, all is lost, the ship is sinking, never mind. Because if you do that, then yeah, you're going to throw away every type of league that you can come up with. And that's what's happened in the past, right? I mean, these leagues have given themselves a couple of years to try to break through or try to make millions of dollars. And listen, not every company is going to make millions of dollars. If you set your sights on making the most money, fine, that's great. I absolutely support your capitalistic adventures and everything in that. If your whole goal is to line your pockets, then you're probably doing the wrong thing right now. Because this is not just a developmental league for the NFL, it's a developmental league for just players overall. And I feel this is the way that it should be approached. Obviously, it's a professional team, yes, but again, I don't see gigantic profits coming out of this league. And if the people that own this league are expecting those gigantic profits and that's what they really want out of this league, then they may be very disappointed, because even at its most lucrative, I do not see this league pulling in billions of dollars like the NFL does. And that's okay. I don't understand why we have to have these flashy leagues that make billions of dollars when good football can be played at a reasonable price to fans and to owners and to anybody else that cares about football. Again, the CFL as an example is not. They don't have flashy, $90 million contracts or, they don't have that kind of stuff. But what they do have is a quality game with quality football that you can enjoy watching during the summer. And so why can't we take that same type of mentality and not expect this league to be a juggernaut of football royalty and just accept it for what it could be, which is a great game in the spring that we can enjoy, that we can take families, our family to, and have fun watching it at a reasonable price, rather than trying to turn it into this bloated monster that the NFL has become, and everybody's scrambling for the millions of dollars that they get. If that's the lifestyle they want, then they can try to get there, right? Because obviously if you're wanting to be a developmental or a complementary league to the NFL, then people want to go to the NFL, and that's fine. Again, I don't fault them at all for that logic. And that's what more players want than anything, is to get up there and get that money. But in the meantime, this is a spring league. This is not the NFL. This is not the game that the NFL has turned into, right? This is a chance for all of us as sports fans to collectively catch our breath and watch something different, something new, something that we can all adventure on, right? I mean, this is not something that we expect to be the polished product that the NFL has given us over the years. And I think that's why a lot of the naysayers and a lot of the folks that are hoping for this to go away should rethink it and take a step back and remember why you started watching football in the first place. There's so much going on right now in the NFL that's distracting from the game on the field, that now we have a chance to hit the reset button. Now we have a chance to watch players that aren't making those $1 million contracts, that aren't holding out and missing entire seasons because they didn't get the contract that they wanted, right? We're done with all of this trading because of contract issues and all the likes for now. Why can't you just enjoy it for what it's worth and not knock it instantly because it's not going to be the NFL on week 1 or maybe week 10 or maybe in the middle of the second season? People don't want to watch things grow. They don't. They want to see something that is right out of the box, able to be played with and used the way they remember it. And I know that's a philosophical mindset that whatever, right? Everybody's like, I'm not listening to this philosophy. I'm listening for football. Well, okay, but maybe I can hopefully change a couple of people's minds out there who have stumbled across this podcast just trying to learn a little something about the AAF. And maybe you're already a naysayer and you're like, wow, I want to find shows that talk about the AAF so I can say how stupid it is. Because it's not. It's not. It's a chance for all of us to watch a game that we love in a time where there's not any football, right? There's no competitors right now. And this will be the only football on from February until the championship game in Las Vegas. So I just feel like if you are listening to this right now and you're one of the naysayers, please allow yourself the opportunity in February to turn it on. It's going to be on CBS. Turn that first game on and just watch. And watch with no reservations. Watch with an eye that is looking for good football from players that, and don't even say they're not good enough for the NFL. Well, of course they didn't make it to the NFL. But as I've talked about in previous episodes, that funnel is so narrow to make it up to any pro league that there's going to be great players that are left by the wayside and players that can play on Sunday, but they just didn't, maybe one of the coaches didn't like what they saw, and maybe the coach had a bad day, got a parking ticket, was rotten and just didn't want to see anybody that day. And that was the difference between him making the team and him not. We don't know. There's human processes going on as to the selection of these players. And it's all just subjective as to what each coach is looking for. So again, you can't fault all of these players for not being able to make it. So just keep your eyes open and watch the product for what it should be. And again, and I've said it and I'm saying it again, just a chance for all of us to watch football in February. I'm super excited to see what the product on the field is going to be. And I'm not going to sit there and pick it apart if it doesn't match what I'm used to. Because unlike some people, I can get out of my comfort zone and enjoy 3-down football where everybody else says it's stupid. But I love the CFL for its quirkiness, and I feel like I'm going to love the AAF for exactly that same thing. You know, as an American, we're not used to watching receivers run in random routes, you know, take off before the ball is snapped and all that other stuff. And likewise, we're not going to be used to no kickoffs and no extra points and all the little things that are going to make the AAF different. But I feel like if we just, again, take a step back and not expect this thing to be, this gigantic show that the NFL has spoiled everybody with for the last several decades, and just know that you're watching a baby, right? It's being born, and a baby that's born, it's not something that can start singing to you right away. It's not something that even walks right away. But you watch that baby grow, and you watch it, and you see it take its first steps, its first words, all those things, right? And we love that, right? I mean, I don't know, some people don't love it, but most people love watching babies do their first things. So why do we expect new leagues to be able to be grown adults from the second they're conceived? It's just not like that. And so I just want folks to watch this league, and I want them to enjoy football. So if you're a naysayer out there, if you're somebody that automatically hates this league just because it's not the NFL, then I think you need to stop, for one, and you need to quit judging it before it's even taken a snap. You know, quit with the mindset of their has-beens and start realizing that these are folks that could very well play on Sunday and may end up playing on Sunday. And then where are you at? Then where's your argument? So enjoy football. Damn it. Just enjoy it and have some fun with it. All right, let's get down to the halftime. Let's say we take a trip through time, shall we? Just imagine this. Close your eyes. It's 2020 in May. The AAF is wrapping up a second successful season, and now it is eyeballing a chance to expand into further markets because they've enjoyed a level of success that they actually can build on, and they want to build on it, and they want to take it into different markets and explore the possibility of growing the brand of AAF out past the 8 cities that they already have. That is going to be a glorious day, and I certainly do hope that it comes. And this topic, by the way, I asked for a possible topic for this quarter, and Finish the Fight on Twitter at Lone Star DC4L gave me the idea for this. They said after 1 year, after year one, assuming it's a success, I'm going to take yours and say 2 years out, because I think after 1 year, if they get success, I think they'll want to have another year. So, but here's the thing. I feel as if 2 years of success is going to dictate expansion. 1 year would be great, and I know they probably want to get the drop on the XFL, but I don't think that that's quite there yet. So, all right. So here's the thing, and I know that he threw out a few. The question was, after year one, assuming it's a success for the AAF, what cities do you think the league will want to expand to, given the XFL choices? Portland, Louisville, Albuquerque. He says he personally would like to see a team in the DFW Metroplex. Thanks very much. Now, actually, we're going to get to your options, but I'm going to give 2 out that I think are intriguing just from the get-go. And I think if after the 2020 season, they see that the XFL was kind of wavering or whatever, I don't think they'll really move into XFL markets. And I say that because maybe they will, and we'll get there in a second, but I don't feel as if they're ready to expand into XFL cities right away. I think the AAF wants to establish that it is not anything other than itself, and that the cities that they choose don't necessarily are not trying to encroach on anybody else's territories except for maybe Atlanta. But other than that, they want to be their own self-contained cities. But these are markets that I think might really support an AAF team and do it well. So again, 2021, the AAF accepts a bid from Syracuse, New York, to field an AAF team. Why do I feel as if Syracuse is there? Because Syracuse is actually a pretty decent city in New York, and it is widely, I think, ignored because of the fact that when you think New York, you think New York City, right? I could say Albany, but I feel like Syracuse is much more of a sports town. They do have their orange, and the orange is pretty good actually up there. So at least the last couple of seasons. So I feel like Syracuse might support not an NFL team, but I feel like the AAF is a perfect market for Syracuse is a perfect market for an AAF type team. I feel like they would have enough of a fan base, and believe me, up there in upstate New York, there's really not a whole heck of a lot to do, and it's close enough to the Buffalo market to where if Buffalo Bills fans wanted to have a team to cheer for in the AAF, Syracuse is right there, not too far away, so they can possibly go watch a few Syracuse games. And again, I just feel like it's a decent enough market. It would draw, I think, enough of a crowd because listen, in the spring in New York, it is freezing cold. But still there's an opportunity to watch football. They'll go to Buffalo to watch Buffalo Bills games. So they'll brave the cold to go watch, whatever team that the Syracuse AAF, decides on. I feel like anyways. And I actually don't mind, the idea of a team in upstate New York that's like the Bills. And again, I think it might be a good move to have another team up there in the North that's not in New York or New Jersey or Buffalo. So we'll see. We'll see how that works. I think, like I said, Syracuse would make a good expansion for the next, whatever it is, 2021, if that's the case. And then next on the list, I'm thinking Oklahoma City. Oklahoma has yet to have an NFL team by my recollection. And I know I'm completely, trying to go by memory here, but Oklahoma is such a huge college town and college football state that it's weird to me that Oklahoma City has yet to actually have an NFL team. So for me, that's one of those markets that would probably do well with not necessarily an NFL team, but at the very least a team like the AAF. And I know that we're talking about with the allocation, how would expansion work and how would it dilute the allocation pool? But even Oklahoma City, I feel, is enough of a distance away from Memphis and San Antonio to not necessarily take away from all of those two teams' allocation areas. And I mean, there's already 129 colleges in the FBS, so there's plenty to go around for 10 teams in the AAF. And again, I feel like the Oklahoma market is ignored enough in football other than college that it's probably starving for a pro team to cheer for. And I feel like putting an expansion team in Oklahoma and in Oklahoma City might be a very good idea for the AAF. Again, trying to stay away from NFL cities enough. Again, I know that they've already got teams in NFL areas, but if you're going to try to build a new fan base in places that are football starved, Oklahoma City, I think, might be one to go after. Now, again, this is just me spitballing. This is me just throwing stuff out there that I think might work. Obviously, I'm not in there in the infrastructure trying to figure out whether or not it's feasible. These are just ideas that I feel like could possibly work out there based on the limited knowledge that I have of the inner workings of the city. But I guess I'd love to see those markets serviced and actually have teams to cheer for, pro teams to cheer for. And then, of course, now let's say in 2021, those two teams thrive and they flourish, and all of a sudden now in year 3 the AAF is ridiculously flush, and now they're looking to actually go farther to 10 or to 12 teams. So they've already established their 10-team league. Now they want to go to 12 teams, and I don't really see everybody. There's people out there that feel like the AAF could go to a bigger league, 18, 20, some odd leagues. I don't feel as if this league needs to get that big to be successful. And again, this is going back to thinking about tempering expectations and the money and all that stuff that goes into it. But I'd be happy with a 12-team league for a while until really it starts to flourish. And then if it's bursting at the seams and needs to get more out there, then maybe we do expand farther to 14, 16, 18, whatever. But right now, I think keeping it small is the key to this league's success. But if we're going to spread out to 12, I will agree with you on one city that was on the list from Lone Star DC4L, and that is Portland. And I think that if there's a team eventually that heads up to Portland, obviously we know Seattle is Seahawk territory, and I don't see, again, a lot of the XFL cities, and I don't want to talk about the XFL, there's plenty of out there, but the XFL cities, they already have NFL teams. I understand that it's not the same time frame. I know that, the NFL wraps up and then the XFL is going to go, but at the same time, these folks, I don't think they need another football team to cheer for. I know people want to watch football all year round. I want to watch football all year round, but by the same token, you're already, done with an NFL season that's 17 weeks. And then if your team makes the playoffs, another couple and whatever, and now you're committed to watching another team. So I don't know that NFL cities will work, especially if the XFL is already there. If the XFL is already there, then the AAF needs to just stay clear. There's just no way. There's so many leagues right now that are putting teams in San Diego, and I get the philosophy on that. San Diego lost the Chargers. Now everybody wants to go to San Diego to be their favorite football team, but that's not going to work. You can't put 5 or 6 teams in a city and say, "Hey, we're your new favorite football," especially when they all play at in the same general time, right? These are all spring leagues that are coming. And you can't really put a fall league in because of the NFL. So you have to differentiate yourself somehow. And those San Diego teams are going to find that not all of them are going to succeed. So hopefully the Fleet, being the first, will plant their flag there and say, you know what, all these other leagues can go away and we'll still be here. So I think Portland, again, is a great opportunity for folks that are Seahawks fans that don't live in Seattle to go cheer for a team during the spring. And Portland's a pretty good city too. And they want sports just as badly as anybody, with their Trailblazers. But they want sports. So I think they earn the 2020, 2022 nod for the expansion of the AAF. And then another city that I feel has gotten the raw deal on a ton of potential football opportunities, and I don't know why this is Sacramento. Maybe that's just me being biased because I live in Northern California, but I feel as if the Sacramento market is a perfect opportunity for a team. I mean, they've had several of them, right? They had they actually had a CFL team in there as well in Sacramento when the CFL did their expansion. And we won't cover that because Sacramento's not an AF city yet, but they had that. They had the UFL, right? The California Redwoods that turned into, and we talked about that in the history of it, but Sacramento is good for football teams. But the problem is that the leagues that have put teams in Sacramento have folded, and really, I think through no fault of Sacramento itself. And I feel like it's a decent enough place to put a team because if you think about it, the Niner fans that live in the area will travel all the way to now Santa Clara, which is a good hour and a half type trip with no traffic. And they'll drive out there to watch the Niners play. So I feel as if they're in their own backyard, they'll go and watch an AAF team play. And it's the capital of California. which is one of the largest states in the Union, which is one of the most powerful cities in the United States. So I don't understand why there's not a football team there yet. So I would definitely nominate Sacramento for a 2022 franchise. If we just stay away from like the gold rush or the gold, miners or all the stuff that we've had so far that's been equated with Sacramento teams. I know Sacramento's the gold, or actually California is famous for all the gold and everything, but I think the gold motif is played out. But yeah, so again, there was so many good football teams that have come in and out of Sacramento that had to fold. The World League had the Sacramento team and they were champions. So hopefully the XFL doesn't plan to get there before the AAF, because I'd love to see an AAF team in Sacramento. And just spoiler alert, and for all the knowledge out there, if there becomes a Sacramento AAF team, I call dibs on not only the podcast, but that will become my new AAF team if they do go to Sacramento. I will cheer very hard. I will attempt to get into the inner workings of Sacramento. So if you're listening out here and you're from the Stockton, Sacramento area, stay away from the microphone if Sacramento ends up getting a team, because that will be my domain. I'll still do this show, but I'll do the Sacramento one as well. All right. So let's go over what we talked about a little bit, right? And I said if the AAF actually does expand into 10 teams, I think Syracuse and Oklahoma City should get the nods for the 2 teams. And then if they expand out farther into 12 teams, I think Portland and Sacramento deserve the franchises for that. So what do you think? Which cities do you think? Do you think the AAF should go after XFL cities? Do you think they should go after NFL cities? Is there a market in Montana, Wyoming, somewhere up there, Idaho, right? I mean, Utah, Salt Lake City finally gets some sort of football, but does Colorado, somewhere in Colorado, deserve a team? There's a lot of states out there that aren't getting love, right? I mean, West Virginia, what kind of a team would you put in West Virginia? Just get out of the box, think out of the box, and figure out where you would put an AAF franchise that you think could support a football team but doesn't already have one already, and figure it out. Because I'd be interested to hear people's hypotheses. Your thoughts on what cities deserve a franchise. DFW, that's actually a very interesting market. So think about that. Like where would you put one there? But I want to hear your thoughts. So tweet me at AllianceFBPod and let me know what you think about where the AAF should expand to, if expansion is a thing after a couple of years. As we start the fourth quarter, I am joined by another set of podcast hosts. I love this AAF podcast family that is starting to form, and all the folks that are jumping in. I know there's more and more starting up every week, but I've got one that's been around for a little while, and it is the San Antonio Command Post, SA Command Post, if you're looking around for it on your favorite podcast app. And I've got the hosts, all 3 of them today. I've got Phillip Higginbotham. Now, I got that right, I think. RC Woods.
Sure did.
And, dang it, I'm going to screw this one up because I got so wrapped around the axle on Higginbotham. But Leo Llamas.
There you go. You hit it right on the head.
Welcome, everybody.
Thanks a lot for having us on, Rob. We're excited to help you out here. We're not in any way upset that you waited to get to us till 3rd. And you for some reason, you let the shipyard go ahead of us. But we're going to let that go. We really are.
I'm glad. And listen, I'm going to start off this with an extreme apology already, because RC called me out on Twitter for some reason, and maybe it's because I knew you guys were going to be on the show this week. I failed to mention you in the list of the AAF content. So I want to humbly apologize, and even thank you so much more for looking over that and having yourselves on the show.
Well, I accept your apology if it comes along with a frozen margarita. How about that?
Oh, are you kidding me? Listen, what's your Venmo? I will get you and all 3 of you can have frozen margaritas on me tonight.
Well, I like a swirl with the mango and the strawberry with sugar on the top.
Oh, you tell the bartender that, because all you're getting is the money from me. I'm just telling you.
Okay,
Right now.
I'll take that.
All right. So listen, you guys are the hosts of, again, the Command Post, and it's the podcast that's centered around the San Antonio Commanders. But you guys are not like the traditional folks that are podcasting right now, where they've probably been friends for a little while. You guys actually came around this and were strangers before you even started the podcast. So talk about how this podcast even started.
Yeah, so we had a great Facebook group going on here in San Antonio from about the moment that we got names and logos and colors. That really took off. It is 200 or so members strong. No, I'm sorry. 580 members strong right now, just a Facebook group, a tailgating group. And in the midst of that, we have a gentleman named John Largent, who runs a media enterprise here in San Antonio called Game Day Media, which you need to go ahead and like and follow. And they got a lot of great content out there that's not just sports related. He's got some business and some other things going on, but he had a desire to jump on board early and get something started with the Commanders and get a podcast going. So he just kind of put out an all call for fans who wanted to jump on a microphone and talk about the Commanders. So the three of us, not in one sitting, we all sat down separately, and he kind of signed us all on, gave us a big, huge, fat signing bonus. I got mine. You guys got yours, right? Gave us a big, huge signing bonus and signed us on. And then we sat down the Monday after Thanksgiving to record for the first time together. And your listeners can actually go back and listen to that. That is the first little 20-minute episode that we put out there. That is the very first time we sat down in a room together.
That's incredible, because there's a lot, and I mentioned this to you guys in a message earlier on Twitter that, you can't, you could tell that there's a little bit of getting to know you, but the flow was already set, I feel like, before you guys even sat down, and chemistry is hard to find, and when you throw three people together and say, hey, make a podcast, the fact that your guys has started out so well and continued to get better is a testament to your guys' passion about the team, and I, for one, commend you for that.
Well, thanks for that, Rod. Yeah, that was pretty crazy, because actually when we met for the first time on that day, I at least came in, I don't know about the others here, but I came in with the impression that we were going to meet each other and kind of talk about the show, have a little face-to-face, because we literally, like we said, never had met each other before that exact moment. And we came in, and it was kind of like a little introduction, and then all of a sudden the microphones were in our faces and the headsets were on, and we're like recording a show, and it was pretty crazy.
And this is RC, and so I can speak for myself, obviously. I came in for an interview. Like a week later, he said that I could be one of the co-hosts. I came in, and I had specifically told John, I go, do you have to really know a lot about football? And he's like, well, a little bit would be okay. And the main thing is I don't try to front that I know a whole lot about football. My passion is tailgating. It's the fans. It's the segment that I do, Mom to Mom, where I actually interview the players' moms and kind of get pretty in depth with them. And so I'm not trying to front that I know everything about football, because I don't, but I do know all the other stuff that encompasses football and having to do with the fans, the merchandise, the players, the hugs, all that stuff.
And that's RC. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that too, because no one really does a mom segment. It's amazing to me, because that is such a fresh take on, because a lot of sports fans, I know there's plenty of podcasts out there that are X's and O's, nuts and bolts. That's fine. They can do that, and hopefully they succeed. But I think when people listen to podcasts, they want more of a fan experience. They want more of the getting to know players and coaches, and I feel like they want more than just the X's and O's. And so for you to present what I've never heard before, and that's a mom segment, that's compelling to me, and I can't wait until that really gets full swing, because that's such a great new segment, and I commend you for that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And to be honest, that's how this all started. I remember on Facebook, and they mentioned, there's going to be a new league coming, and I pressed like. And my daughter's a junior at Texas A&M Corpus Christi, and she's actually studying sports management. So as a mom, I thought, well, maybe I'll meet some people and make some connections, and maybe I can help her get a job, in the next 2 years. And as a mom, that's where my passion comes from. And so to talk to other moms and to hear their stories, how they're just being moms, I could really relate to them because I am a mom. And so I think it's pretty obvious that I do make the connections. There's times where during an interview, we both kind of teared up and cried a little bit. So I really enjoy talking to the moms. I feel like I'm more connected to the players, and some of the players are calling me Mama RC, and that's okay with me. And I tell them, if you get sick and if you need chicken soup, call me. I will make you chicken soup. I make the best chicken soup.
Phillip, how exciting is it to be part of this on the ground level? I know that I've talked to the Memphis AAF guys, the Memphis Express and Goal folks and the folks at the shipyard. They both said that this was really exciting, but I mean, San Antonio doesn't necessarily have that rich football history. So what's this like to be part of a pro team in San Antonio?
It's really exciting. It's really interesting. Now you say we don't have a rich pro football history, and any spring league or any of the ancillary leagues besides Vince McMahon's wonderful XFL that he first tried to trot out there, all had teams pretty much in the San Antonio area. Whether you go back to the WFL, obviously USFL, which had some great stories come out of the San Antonio Gunslingers, even the World American Football League, WAFL, I think is how they referred to themselves, had a team here. And then we've had 1 or 2 Arena League teams here. So while it's not a super rich tradition, we've got a very interesting history when it comes to pro football here in San Antonio. Getting on the ground floor of a team like this and an experience like this is a little dodgy because of that history for some San Antonio fans. They really have kind of looked at this as, how is this going to be different? Is this even really necessary? And so one of our early fights, I think, all of us that are in this media area with the alliance have to kind of answer that question of, is this necessary, and does this have some sort of sustaining power? And I think the answer, when you look at it, the names that we see involved, Bill Polian, Charlie Ebersol, even on the team levels with coaches and general managers, a ton of experience in the NFL, and the fact that they're simply not challenging the NFL directly, it seems like it has some staying power. And as far as whether it's necessary or needed, I think a developmental or league below the NFL has been needed for a long time. Nobody's come along and done it properly to give it some legs.
Yeah, and that to me, like I said, when you look at all these spring leagues that continue to try to pop up, that's why I latched onto this one rather than the XFL or the FFL or the whatever the AP, I don't know, whatever the 3 other ones are that are trying to pop up out there right now. I looked at the AAF and I looked at the fact that, these guys are backed by some pretty hefty names. And that's why I decided that I was going to go with the AAF, because I just feel like if one's going to succeed, this one will probably be the one to do it. So, Leo, when you pay attention to the players, and we talked about a lot of the names that are attached to this, when you look at the players that are on San Antonio's roster right now, is there anybody that just jumps out at you as somebody that you think might be a superstar in this league?
It's a superstar in the AAF. Well, looking at training camp, we've been lucky enough to be invited to attend the training camp practices, the first 3. So I've actually been there kind of looking close on and checking out the talent. And the wide receiving group for this team looks to be really, really talented. There's a lot of good size there and speed. But to be honest with you, the one guy that is really kind of standing out right now to me is number 81. Or I'm sorry, no, it's 82, Mikhail McKay. He's a wide receiver out of Penn State, Beaver. And he has just looked spectacular. So right now I'm really impressed with the way he's looking. We also have a couple of tight ends that are looking really good. Javoni Robinson really has impressed me up to this point. And so I'm kind of keeping an eye on those guys in the passing game just because of their pure size and athleticism. I'm pretty excited about what they're going to do in the offense.
All right, RC. So tell me, what is the tailgate situation going to be like? I know that your guys' first home game is coming up pretty soon. Are you guys doing it up right? You guys got plans, or what's that going to be like for the fans?
Well, we already have a pre-tailgate party coming up, and so we organized that, and that's going to be on January 19th at one of our fans. He opened his arms and opened up his place of business of a distillery, and we're going to have a pre-tailgate party there just to kind of get to know everybody, do a meet and greet. We're also going to have some live entertainment. We have Marcy Grace, who's going to perform, and we have one other live entertainment. So what my goal is for everyone to get to know each other before the tailgate. So when we have our first game, we're practically family, and that's the main goal.
So I know
you should join us. Are you going to come join us?
It'd be great to hop a flight out there to San Antonio on February 9th. Unfortunately, I probably won't be able to, but I will. I'm going to try. This will be my goal, is to maybe try to attend at least one game from some of the closer ones in the 10 weeks that are out there. Can't promise everybody anything, but it'd be nice to hop a flight.
But you can come for the pre-tailgate party. That's on January 19th. That's before all the games. So we can see if you have any favorite tailgating foods, you have any good recipes.
If I can get enough Patreon support I can get a flight from California to San Antonio.
Well, we would love to have you, and we'd love to share that margarita in person.
Ooh, for sure. But now, so for when you're talking about the actual tailgating, now I know that there's a podcast that shall not be named on this to you. But they've got a section that's now named after them. The Memphis guys have a section. Where's your section? Tell me. Get one.
Well, we're working on that. I know a lot of us actually have a section 134, which is on the 50-yard line. And so we're hoping to make that the rowdiest group there in the Dome. And I know that we're working with management to have our own parking lot there at the Alamo Dome to do the tailgating. So come February 9th, I'll probably be there from like 10 in the morning, even though the game doesn't start till 7. But we'll be there meeting, greeting, eating, drinking, you name it. We'll be there. We're going to have the best tailgate party ever.
That's my favorite part of this whole thing. Now, unfortunately, I am kind of far away from all of the actual teams themselves. I mean, the closest one to me would be San Diego, and I'll probably make
Don't
it down.
Don't say it.
Oh, I'm sorry. The other team, the team in California, the shall not be
that's
named.
better. Okay.
That's the closest one to me. Fine, I'll go to a Salt Lake game. How's that?
All right. They look like the unicorns to me. You know, the little... That's what I think of them as. But the Stallions, they kind of remind you of a unicorn, right?
It looks a little bit like it, but, Actually, I did see on Twitter Vulcan Voice, or Voice of Vulcan, that put out a list of the logos, but instead of the Stallions, it put a My Little Pony unicorn on there, and that was
that's kind of cute.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
Did you hear what I said about the Atlanta Legends?
I think I saw. Was that on Twitter? Or you said it?
I don't know. I said that it reminded me of the Jughead with the little crown on the helmet.
Yes.
Right? Am I right or right?
Yeah, no, you're right. I kind of looked at that too, but yeah.
But I'm the one who said it, so.
Yes, you are. All right. So, as far as the show is concerned, when the season gets started, how are you going to structure? Do you want to put more interviews in there, or how are you looking to continue the show once the season gets going?
What we really want to do is we want to kind of be the voice of the fan. We just found out today that the Commanders have set up their radio deal. We all know all the way around the league that a second TV deal is in the works and should be coming soon. They're going to have the team covered. They're going to cover the team. We want to do that as well, but we really want to make ourselves kind of the voice of the fan. So one of the nice things about not being an official part of the team is when things don't work out great, we can talk about that freely. We're not under any kind of restrictions from the team. And when fans are upset, when they're frustrated with a call or referees. Not that football fans ever get upset with referees at all.
Never.
But if that were to happen, we could certainly be a place that gets voiced. And that's our goal, is really to have some players on, connect with coaches. But ultimately, we would love to have just as many fan interviews as part of our podcast as we do have players interviews.
Yeah, and the player interviews I tend to like a lot too, especially when we're not talking about X's and O's. I'm a bigger fan of them telling us, fun stuff about them and their life story. So I think from a fan perspective, listening to them talk about something other than football is usually more fun.
Yeah, so we're going to record right after we get done talking with you. We're going to record our weekly episode. And this week we get really lucky. I can spill the beans because this won't get out here before we have a chance to talk to him. We're going to talk to a player. We're actually going to have him in for the full episode. We've already talked to his mom today, or RC has, but it's the long snapper.
Ooh.
When have you ever heard of a long snapper with an hour-long interview on any show, podcast, anything like that? But we've connected with Scott Daly, and we're going to have him in, talk to him. And he's a long snapper. He's out there for, 7-8 plays a game, but he's got a great story, and we want to talk to him and just kind of spend some time with him.
I love it. I love it. All right, well, I'm going to let you guys get to your recording, but before we get going, I want you to tell everybody out there where to find you, where to find the show, and all that other good stuff, and do a good job of pitching your show to the listeners out there.
Absolutely. Command Post Podcast is available on Apple Podcasts. It's available on Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or if you're just really, really lazy and you don't want to go out there and find it on that, there's a real easy way to get to us. You can go to www.sacommandpost.com and find us there. All of our episodes will link straight to that website, and so you'll be able to follow us there on that website. Social media-wise, we have a group, Command Post Podcast. Not a group, I'm sorry, it's a page, which there's a difference if you're in Facebook world, but it's a page out there for you to see any content that we're putting out from training camp or episodes or any of that kind of stuff that we're getting out there. That's kind of a landing site for everybody. We have the AAF tailgate page where we all met and where that all got started for Commanders fans. And then we're on Twitter at AAF. No, I'm sorry. It's at AAF Command Post. They're on Twitter. So given all that information, if you can't find us, you just don't want to.
That is very true. He is Phillip Higginbotham. I'm tripping over your name, and I hate it because people trip over mine all the time. He is Phillip Higginbotham, joined by RC Woods and Leo Llamas. They are the SA Command Post, and they cover the San Antonio Commanders. I want to thank the three of you for coming on, and again, overlooking the fact that I didn't mention you in the other episode.
Hey, we're much less upset about that, and much more upset that you would have those Shipyard boys on before you would consider having us on.
I can't fix that, but what I can say is that I love you and you guys' energy that you brought to the show.
Well, thank you so much, Rod, for giving us the time and sharing your experiences with us, and we were able to share our experiences with you. So I look forward to maybe someday meeting you.
Absolutely.
And definitely tailgating.
Absolutely. I'll have that margarita for you.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, thanks, Rod. Thanks for having us on the show. It was fun talking to you. And definitely, if you ever make it down to San Antonio, look us up, give us a tweet or something. We'll get together and have some of that Texas barbecue that I know you guys don't get anywhere near in California, and some of these margaritas that RC is talking about.
Absolutely. All right. I look forward to it. Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Thank you.
That will put an end to another episode of the Alliance Football Podcast. Episode 5 is done. I want to thank you very much for listening, and I want to thank the fine folks at the SA Command Post Podcast for joining me. I once again want to thank RC. I want to thank Phillip and Leo for coming on the show. Again, sorry you had to come after the Shipyard. It's all good, though. I think the podcast family definitely enjoyed listening to what you guys had to say, and all that other good stuff. You can find everything they have at sacommandpost.com, and of course find their feed and their show there. So please do listen to them. So again, thank you all for listening. Listen, if you haven't told a friend yet to listen to this show, please do. I'm loving the fact that I'm getting so much response from all over the United States. It's so much fun to watch that map light up and to see where people are listening from. Shout out to my listeners in the UK. Crazy to have listeners out there. And then, of course, shout out to the folks listening in Canada. You guys are all near and dear to my heart for my Canadian football podcast. So it's great to have you listening here as well. But again, that's it. So, man, I can't wait till February, and we'll come out with another episode of the Lions Football Podcast next week. See you then.